There's a new employee in town around Home Built Workshop. Yes, it's a robot. We're gonna see if we can get this set up. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to this episode of Home Built Workshop. I hope you are all having an awesome day, because it's about to get exciting around here, because finally we have a CNC machine to play with. Now, this probably won't be all that big of a surprise to those of you that have tuned into the live streams. You guys have heard me talk several times about how I would like to get a CNC machine. What we have here is a Onefinity X50 Woodworker CNC machine. Well, this box and about 3 others. I want to be very clear with you guys right up front and let you know that this is absolutely not sponsored by Onefinity. They didn't send me this machine. I didn't get a discount on this machine. I paid for this machine at the regular retail price with my own money. So, not sponsored. I did at one point reach out to Onefinity and see if they had any opportunities to work with someone like myself, and really all I got was crickets. So anyway, this is the Onefinity X50 Woodworker. It's a machine that I have had a teeny bit of experience with. I have a couple of friends locally that have this exact machine, and they're making all kinds of cool stuff, including guitars. So I know that this machine is perfectly capable of doing what I need to do. Well, really what I need to do right now is to get this thing out of the box and see if we can get it set up. How do you get into this thing? I know one way to get into it. What's going on here? I knew it would be this confusing to open a box. Ah! The table's falling over. I don't even know which box this is. Is that really an empty box? I think it is. This looks like our X rail and the Z thingy. Technical term, the Z thingy. There's several other boxes like that, so I'm going to take a minute off camera so you don't have to watch me wrestle with all that stuff. I'm going to get everything unboxed, and we're going to check out what we have, and then I'll see if I can get this thing set up and make it do something. This is the last main box. I have one more box to open, which is going to have kind of the base frame for this, but this box has all of the little bits and pieces in there that we're going to need. Stuff like, well, I don't know what's in that one. Got a joystick controller, a little test sign made by this machine, apparently. An empty box? Probably filler material. We have, that's the controller. All right. Here's the actual little computer that's going to run the thing. And this guy, the last frame piece. All right, so I got a little bit of this extra packaging out of the way, everything kind of sorted out. So I'll show you just really quick what we have here. We have 2 pieces, which are the X rails, I believe. This is the Y rail, and then we have this attachment here, which will go somewhere on this thing, and that's going to be where our router or spindle gets mounted. In our case, I'm going to use a router. This is our Z-axis. I've got the little computer here and a box of different accessories, the dust boot, a touch probe, a bunch of wires. I think everything's here. Now we've got to work on getting this thing assembled. Now, one question that may be on your mind is, where in the world are you going to put this? For those of you that have been following the channel for a bit, you guys know that, well, I just don't have a lot of space. This machine is going to live kind of on the other side of the shop where you don't really see too much. It's really this more of a storage area. But I've been working the last couple of months selling things, rearranging some things, getting rid of things, trying to make space for this machine to live. And what I have is a 4-foot by 4-foot table that I've created some space for, and that's where this machine's gonna go. Now I'm gonna do my absolute best to show you the assembly, installation, setup process for this machine, but where this machine is not really ideal for filming video, meaning really I don't have a bunch of lights. I'm gonna try to get it lit so that you can see what's going on, but I just wanna let you know that really that area is not intended for video like I try to do over here. So we're just gonna do the best we can and get this thing up and running. I do have one more box to open. I wanna do that before I move any of these pieces to the table because, well, it's kind of the base for all of these pieces, so I guess we gotta get that stuff out of the box as well. Hardware, handy. I'll start the assembly of the base by laying out the front and the rear supports. These pieces do have a top and the bottom. The bottom is the side with the single threaded hole. This is used for leveling feet or maybe to secure it to your workbench. Then I'll grab the crossbars and lay those in place. These are notched to fit around these round support bars. Then we can grab the bolts in a handily marked package called hardware and use these to secure the crossbars to the main front and back bars. With one side tightened up, I'll just flip the base around and repeat that process for the other side. Of course, if you can get to both sides of your machine, you won't have to spin it around, but I'm gonna have to. With the base assembled, now I'm gonna flip it upside down so that I can install some MDF panels, which will become the waste board. I suppose you could do this without flipping it around, but I think it's a little easier this way. Now I'll fire up the table saw and cut down the 3/4 inch piece of MDF into the sizes specified in the manual. For my machine, it's about 8 3/4 wide with a couple of 3-inch strips on the end. Here I'm just using a scrap of 2x6 to make sure the MDF is lined up flush with the base. Using a self-centering drill bit, I'm going to drill pilot holes before I install the included screws to secure the MDF. Once I get all the screws attached and this thing flipped back over, now we're ready to start assembling the rest of the rails. I also got to say that this thing gets pretty heavy once all these pieces of MDF are on there, so be careful. I'll begin by grabbing the Y rails and getting them set into place. The motors go to the back. These side rails just by themselves are pretty heavy. Before I bolt everything in place, I need to get this X-rail roughly installed onto the side rails. Everything on this is heavy. Partly why I like this machine. All the pieces on this machine are notched so that they fit together nice and easily. This X-rail fits in some notches on top of the carriers on the Y rails. Right here, I have it on backwards, but I figured that out in just a second and flipped it around. The motor is supposed to be on the right-hand side. There, it sort of looks like a machine now. Now we just got to bolt it down. After lining up the right side Y rail with the front edge of the base, I'm going to lightly put in one screw. This is going to hold it in place while I line up and secure the X-rail across the top. Now I'll grab a hold of the X-rail. I'm going to pull it all the way forward on its sliders. When both of the sliders have bottomed out, I'll know that both of these rails are exactly where they need to be. At this point, this end of the machine is square, so I'm going to go ahead and install the bolts. Really, we're just squaring up the ends of everything by using the sliders themselves. We pull them all together, which sets the distance. Now that I've got all these bolts in, I'm going to slide this all the way to the back, and then we'll be able to tighten down the bolts at the back, because as we slide this, it's going to change the position of the rails to be exactly parallel to each other, and then we know we're good. I had to climb up on the machine in order to get these bolts started. It's not hard, but where this machine is gonna live, I don't have a lot of room to work around it. So it may present a few challenges once we get this thing up and running, but for now, at least we can get it set up and working. Is it ideal? Well, maybe not. But is it gonna work fine? Yeah. So I think I've got all the rails tightened down. Up to now, everything's bolted into place. One thing that I've found pretty helpful is the fact that the team at Onefinity has seemingly done quite a bit of work to try to make this as easy as possible. This was a bag of hardware marked X-rail mounting screws. That way I know that those are the bolts that go in here. There's also several other packs of hardware that are clearly marked, and we're about to start laying out some cables. Those are clearly marked as well, so that we know right where everything's supposed to go. So far, so good. Before I install the Z-axis motor, I'm going to slide the mounting bracket to the center of the rails, just so I have a little more room to work around it. From there, it's just using the included hardware to install the bracket. There's several different mounting holes you can use to mount this at different heights. For now, I'm just using the middle set of holes. In order to install the lower screws, I need to raise the height of the bracket manually to give me room to get in there. With the Z-axis installed, it's time to move on and connect a controller and a bunch of wires. Now we're going to start connecting some wires. Like I mentioned about the bolts, everything is labeled here. All of the labels on here match the labels on the cables themselves, if I can get them untangled. So on our cables, the ends are marked Y1 and Y2. These will plug into the ends of our Y rails. These are labeled as well M1, M2, which plug right into these. All of the cables are that way, M3, M0. So really well laid out. Everything's clearly marked. All we got to do is make those connections. This is the right side Y rail. I believe that one goes to Y1. And the rail on the left side of the machine will get plugged in to Y2. At this moment in time, I don't know where that controller is going to live yet. For now, I'm just going to set it back here out of the way. That way we can finish setting up everything else. We'll figure this out later. The cable marked X will plug into the end of the X rail, and the Z cable gets plugged into the back of this little kind of twisty, springy cable. That's the Z. And the last connection for our Z motor is going to be to connect the stepper motor to the other end of the twisty, springy cable. Technical term. Just like so. There's a couple things I have to connect yet. One of them is the touch probe, which is going to allow me to set the Z height by using this little probe. This also has a port marked on the back of the controller where we can just plug this into and be done. So I've connected our touch probe to the controller. We'll just set this out of the way. And the last thing that I need to plug in, other than the power cable, is the little dongle for the wireless joystick controller thing. That way we can wirelessly control this, kind of like playing a video game. This also plugs into one of the USB ports on the back of the controller. I'm going to connect this power cord to the controller, plug that guy in. That's pretty straightforward stuff right there. Well, I think all of our electrical connections are done. The only thing that we're missing is a spindle. Now, this particular system is designed to work with the Makita router, specifically this guy right here. We just need to remove the router from the base plate, just like so. That'll go right in there like that. We'll tighten it down and we can power this up if I hadn't lost my Allen wrenches. There are some Allen wrenches included in this set, but I definitely recommend having a good quality set of your own on hand. There is a little bit of cable management built into the top of the spindle mount. I'm going to attach those cables now. Now our router is ready to go. We've got the cables somewhat secured up here. I'm going to have to do some cable management later on, but right now my goal is to just get this thing all assembled and up and running. Now I just have 2 power cables to plug in, but before I do that, this machine is sold a lot of times with a small touch screen, but I opted to connect this to a regular TV screen or a computer monitor. There's an HDMI out on the back of the controller that normally would connect to the touchscreen, but I'm going to run an HDMI cable to a little HD TV that I'm going to use as the monitor, and instead of a touchscreen, I'm just going to connect a USB mouse and keyboard to it for now. We're going to start out that way, see how it works out. I've seen other setups done that way, so I don't really think there's going to be any issue. Plus, I got a smart TV here, so we could just watch a movie while we're running the machine. Yeah, no. At least I'm not going to. But you could, I guess, if that's your thing. I'm going to go ahead and get these things plugged in, get the HDMI connected to the TV, and then we'll press the wonderful power button and see what happens. With everything connected, it's time to reach back here and hit the power button. Well, that's a good sign. It looks like it's alive. Let's see if we have a mouse. Our mouse works. Nice. All right. I don't think I want to home the machine just yet because I got stuff in the way yet. And it's gonna come over here and come back. But let's see if things work here. And maybe we can control it. When you're setting your machine up, don't move it around before you actually press the home button. This causes it, I guess, to get confused and lose its place. I ended up having to go into the controller, clear out the home in order to get it to actually go to the home location. So don't play with it before you home it. So with the controller, you can use the buttons. I believe Y is fast speed. X is like micro speed. B is a medium, A is slow. So fast, slower, slower, slowest. So this joystick controls your X and the Y. This controls your up and down. So I've cleared some junk out of the way for now, and we're going to go ahead and home the machine. Should bring it back to the front left corner. And this is kind of where I caused the machine to get confused. When I hit the home button, it did go to the far left side, but it didn't come to the front. That's because I moved it around instead of homing it before I did anything else. After clearing the home and moving it there manually, I was able to get it homed with no problem. It's alive! This is awesome! Let's head back over to the other side where there's a little bit better light. Well, that wraps this up. I cannot tell you how excited I am to finally have a machine like this in the workshop. This has been a long time coming. Like I said, I've been working up to this for quite a while, trying to make space in my tiny shop, and now we've got it set up and everything seems to be working fine. Now, I'm not completely done yet. I still have a couple things that I need to do. I've got to do some serious cable management. I need to figure out where I'm going to mount the controller. I have a dust boot that I need to get installed that's going to run to my dust collector that I mainly use for the drum sander. I have a couple other odds and ends to do, maybe figure out if I want to secure that thing to the table or at least put some blocks. I don't quite know yet. My main goal at this step was to get it all assembled and everything working. I still got a bunch of learning as well. I've been working in Fusion 360, learning the cam process. I think I have the first project all ready to go that I'm going to cut on this machine. That's going to be a saddle slotting jig that I'm going to use for the bridge on my acoustic guitar. So stay tuned for that because that's coming up, well, probably next. If you enjoyed this, hit that thumbs up button. Also, I'd love to have you on as a subscriber to the YouTube channel. You know, everybody these days is saying that, you know, make sure you're subscribed because the algorithms, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I appreciate all of you guys. Thanks a lot for tuning into this one. I hope you're excited too to see what's to come because I know I am. We'll see you guys next time.